I never imagined I'd be kicked out of my childhood home, especially not by my stepfather. But that's exactly what happened last week, and I'm still reeling from the shock and hurt of it all. To understand how I got here, I need to go back a bit. My mom, Lisa, was the heart of our family. She was warm, caring, and always put my dad and me first. We were a tight-knit trio, and even though my dad's job as a corporate lawyer kept him busy, we always made time for family dinners and weekend outings. Mom was a teacher, and she had this incredible way of making learning fun. She's the reason I developed a love for reading and history. Everything changed 5 years ago when Mom was diagnosed with cancer. It was aggressive, and despite the best efforts of her doctors, we lost her within 6 months. I was 15 at the time, and it felt like my world had been torn apart. Dad and I were both devastated. He threw himself into his work, often staying late at the office or taking business trips. I think it was his way of coping with the loss. Meanwhile, I felt lost and alone, trying to navigate high school without my mom's guidance. For 2 years, it was just Dad and me in the house, barely interacting. The silence was deafening. I missed the laughter and warmth that used to fill our home. I tried to reach out to Dad, but he always seemed distracted or too busy. I started spending more time at my best friend Lily's house, finding comfort in her family's bustling household. Then, about 3 years ago, Dad met Sarah at a work function. She was a legal secretary at a partner firm, and apparently, they hit it off immediately. Within 6 months, they were married. It all happened so fast that I barely had time to process it. Suddenly, I had a stepmother and a stepbrother, Jake, who was 2 years younger than me. At first, I tried to make the best of the situation. Sarah seemed nice enough, always asking about my day and trying to include me in family activities. Jake was a bit of a challenge. He was moody and seemed resentful of having to share his mom's attention. But I made an effort to be friendly, remembering how hard it was to lose a parent. My stepdad, Mark, was a different story. He worked in IT and was always talking about the latest tech gadgets. At first, he tried to bond with me over computers, but when he realized I was more interested in books and history, he seemed to lose interest. Instead, he focused all his attention on Jake, who shared his passion for technology and gaming. As time went on, I noticed a shift in the household dynamics. Mark started buying Jake expensive gaming equipment, high-end computers, the latest consoles, VR headsets. He'd take Jake to gaming conventions and tech expos, while I was left at home. I tried not to let it bother me, thinking it was just their way of bonding. But it hurt to see how easily I was being sidelined in my own home. Dad, meanwhile, seemed to retreat even further into his work. He was home less and less, always citing important cases or client meetings. When he was home, he'd spend most of his time in his office, leaving me to navigate this new family dynamic on my own. I couldn't help but feel like I was losing both my parents all over again. Things came to a head last week. I was in my room, studying for a history test, when Jake barged in without knocking. He started going on about how my room would be perfect for his new gaming setup. Apparently, he wanted to start streaming his gameplay, and my room had the best lighting and space for it. I thought he was joking at first. This was my room, after all. The room where Mom used to read me bedtime stories, where we'd have our late-night talks about school and friends. The walls were still covered with photos of us together, and her old quilt still lay on my bed. This room was my sanctuary, the one place in the house where I still felt close to her. But then Mark came in, and I realized this wasn't a joke. He started talking about how Jake needed a proper setup for his future career in gaming and streaming. He said that since I was going to college soon, even though that's still a year away, I should be willing to give up my room. He even suggested I could move into the small guest room in the basement. I was shocked. I tried to argue, to explain how important this room was to me, but Mark wouldn't listen. He accused me of being selfish and not supporting Jake's dreams. He said I should be happy to make sacrifices for my new family. But how could I when it felt like they were erasing the last traces of my old one? The argument got heated. I yelled, Mark yelled back, and Jake just stood there with a smug look on his face. Sarah tried to intervene, but she seemed more concerned with calming Mark down than standing up for me. And Dad? He was away on another business trip, completely unaware of what was happening. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, looking at the photos on my wall, feeling like I was being pushed out of my own life. The next morning, I made a decision. I packed a bag with some clothes and my most important possessions, photo albums, my mom's old necklace, the journal she gave me before she died. Then I walked out, ignoring Mark's shouts and Sarah's pleas to come back and talk things out. I ended up at Lily's house, tears streaming down my face as I told her everything that had happened. Her parents were horrified when they heard the story. They insisted I stay with them for as long as I needed. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. It's been a week now, and I'm still trying to process everything. I've been staying in Lily's spare room, trying to focus on schoolwork and figure out what to do next. I've tried calling my dad, but he hasn't picked up. I don't know if Mark has told him what happened or if he's just too busy to notice I'm gone. Yesterday, I finally worked up the courage to call my Aunt Rachel, my mom's sister. We haven't been close since Mom died. I think it was too painful for both of us. But I remembered how she always told me to reach out if I ever needed help. When I told her what happened, she was furious. Without hesitation, she offered to let me come stay with her. She lives in a nearby city, about an hour away. It would mean changing schools for my senior year, but at this point, I'm willing to do anything to get out of this situation. Rachel is coming to pick me up tomorrow. I'm going to go back to the house one last time to get the rest of my things. I'm dreading it, but I know I need to do it. I can't leave behind the photos and mementos of my mom. They're all I have left of her now. I keep wondering if I'm making the right decision. Am I overreacting? Should I have tried harder to make things work with Mark and Jake? But then I remember how it felt to be constantly sidelined in my own home, to have my feelings and my history dismissed so easily. I don't think I could have stayed there any longer without completely losing myself. I don't know what the future holds. I'm scared about changing schools, about being away from Lily and my other friends. I'm worried about what will happen when my dad finally realizes I'm gone. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like someone is putting me first. And right now, that's what I need most. Update 1, it's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First of all, I want to thank everyone who offered support and advice. Your kind words meant more to me than you can know. The day after my last post, Rachel came to pick me up. Going back to the house to get my things was even harder than I expected. Mark tried to stop me, saying I was overreacting and that we needed to sit down and talk things out. But Rachel stood up for me, telling Mark in no uncertain terms that he had no right to kick me out of my own home. Seeing her stand up for me like that, it reminded me so much of my mom. For the first time since this whole mess started, I felt like someone was truly on my side. As we were leaving, Sarah tried to talk to me. She was crying, saying she never meant for things to go this far. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to believe that she really cared. But then I remembered how she stood by and let Mark treat me like an outsider in my own home. I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Jake, meanwhile, just glared at me from the top of the stairs. I guess he was angry that his plan to take over my room hadn't worked out. The drive to Rachel's place was quiet. I spent most of it looking out the window, watching my childhood neighborhood disappear in the rearview mirror. Rachel tried to make conversation, telling me about the spare room she'd set up for me and how she'd talked to the local high school about enrolling me for my senior year. I appreciated her efforts, but I was too overwhelmed to engage much. When we got to Rachel's house, I was surprised by how much it reminded me of the home I grew up in. She and my mom had similar tastes, and seeing photos of my mom on the walls brought tears to my eyes. Rachel gave me space to settle in, telling me to take as much time as I needed. The first week at Rachel's was a blur. I spent most of it in my new room, unpacking and trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Rachel would check on me regularly, bringing me meals and sitting with me when I felt up to talking. She shared stories about my mom that I'd never heard before, and for the first time in years, I felt close to her memory again. About a week after I moved in, I finally heard from my dad. It turns out Mark hadn't told him anything about what happened. When my dad couldn't reach me at home, he called Rachel, and she filled him in on the situation. To say he was furious would be an understatement. My dad immediately flew back home and confronted Mark. According to what he told me later, it was a pretty intense argument. Mark tried to justify his actions, saying that he was just trying to support Jake's future career. But my dad wasn't having any of it. He pointed out that the house and everything in it was paid for with his money, and that Mark had no right to kick me out. The confrontation ended with my dad telling Mark and Sarah to leave. He said he wouldn't support people who would mistreat his daughter. Mark and Sarah tried to argue, but my dad stood firm. He gave them a week to find a new place and move out. I have to admit, I was shocked when my dad told me all this. For years, I had felt like he didn't really care about what was going on in my life. Hearing how he stood up for me, it was like seeing a completely different side of him. He asked me to come back home, but I was hesitant. I told him I needed some time to think about it. The truth is, even though Mark and Sarah would be gone, the house still held a lot of painful memories for me. Plus, I had just started settling into my new school and was making friends. Rachel has been amazing through all of this. She suggested that I finish out the school year with her, and then decide what I want to do about college. My dad agreed that this might be the best option. He's even talking about cutting back on his work travels so he can visit more often. As for Jake, I heard through some mutual friends that he and his mom moved in with his grandmother. Apparently, he's pretty angry about the whole situation and has been badmouthing me on social media. It hurts, but I'm trying not to let it get to me. The hardest part of all this has been dealing with the conflicting emotions. On one hand, I'm relieved that I'm out of that toxic situation and that my dad finally stood up for me. On the other hand, I feel guilty about essentially breaking up a family. I know it's not really my fault, but it's still something I struggle with. For now, I'm focusing on school and trying to heal from everything that's happened. Rachel has been encouraging me to join some clubs and activities, which has been helping take my mind off things. I've joined the school's history club, and I'm even thinking about trying out for the debate team. It's nice to be able to pursue my interests without feeling like I'm disappointing anyone. I'm also considering taking up a part-time job to save some money for college. Rachel says I don't need to, that she's happy to support me, but I think having some financial independence might be good for me. Plus, it'll give me something to focus on besides all the drama. My dad has been calling regularly, which is a big change from before. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship, and while it's not always easy, I'm grateful for the effort he's making. We've even started talking about planning a trip together next summer, just the two of us. It's something we haven't done since before Mom got sick. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. I know I have a long way to go in terms of processing everything that's happened, but I finally feel like I'm on the right path. I have people in my corner who genuinely care about me, and that makes all the difference. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and things have continued to evolve. I'm still living with Aunt Rachel, and I've settled into a routine here. School is going well, and I've made some good friends. The debate team tryouts I mentioned last time? I made it. It's been a great outlet for me, helping me build confidence and articulate my thoughts more clearly. The biggest development is that my dad has decided to sell the house. He said that after everything that happened, it didn't feel right to keep it. Plus, he's been thinking about moving closer to where I am now. It's a big change, but I think it might be good for both of us. He's even talking about looking for a job in this area so he can be around more. Last weekend, I went back to the house to help pack up my things. Going back was harder than I expected. It brought back a lot of memories, both good and bad. I found old photos of my mom that I had forgotten about, birthday cards she had written me, even some of her old jewelry. It was both painful and comforting to see these pieces of her again. While we were there, we ran into Jake. He was there to pick up some things he had left behind. It was awkward, to say the least. He didn't say much, just glared at me the whole time. I tried to talk to him, to explain my side of things, but he wasn't interested in listening. He muttered something about me ruining everything and stormed off. I guess some bridges just can't be rebuilt. On a more positive note, I've started talking to a counselor. Rachel suggested it might help me process everything that's happened, and she was right. It's been really helpful to have someone neutral to talk to about all of this. We've been working on strategies to deal with my anxiety and guilt, and it's been making a real difference. My relationship with my dad continues to improve. He's making a real effort to be more present in my life. We have weekly video calls, and he's even talking about taking some time off work so we can go on a trip together this summer. We're thinking about visiting some historical sites on the East Coast, combining my love for history with some father-daughter bonding time. As for Mark and Sarah, I haven't heard much about them. My dad mentioned that Mark tried to contact him once to apologize, but my dad shut that down pretty quickly. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Part of me is still angry, but another part wonders if I should try to forgive them. The counselor says these feelings are normal and that I don't need to make any decisions about forgiveness right now. Looking back on everything that's happened, it's hard to believe how much my life has changed in just a few months. There are still days when I feel sad or angry about what happened, but overall, I'm in a much better place now. I'm looking forward to finishing out the school year strong and then figuring out what's next for me. I'm still not sure if I'll move back in with my dad when he relocates, or if I'll go straight to college from here. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I have options. I'm not just reacting to what others want from me, I'm actively shaping my own future. And that feels pretty good. Update 3. It's been about 6 months since my last update, and I've got some big news to share. I graduated high school. The ceremony was last weekend, and it was a day filled with emotions. As I stood there in my cap and gown, I couldn't help but think about how different things were from what I'd imagined a year ago. Rachel and my dad were both there for the ceremony. Seeing them sitting together, cheering me on, was an incredible feeling. My dad even got a bit teary-eyed, which is something I never thought I'd see. After the ceremony, we had a small celebration at Rachel's house. Some of my new friends came over, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was surrounded by people who truly cared about me. During the party, my dad pulled me aside to talk. He told me how proud he was of me, not just for graduating, but for how I'd handled everything over the past year. Then he surprised me with some news of his own. Remember how I mentioned he was thinking about moving closer? Well, he's done more than just think about it. He's actually bought a house in the same city where Rachel lives. He said he realized how much he'd missed out on in my life, and he wanted to be closer as I start this new chapter. I was stunned. Part of me was thrilled at the idea of having my dad nearby, but another part was worried. What if things went back to how they were before, with him being distant and uninvolved? When I expressed these concerns, he assured me that things would be different this time. He's even talking about cutting back on his work travel to spend more time at home. As for me, I've decided to attend the local university. It's got a great program in history, which I'm planning to major in. This way, I can stay close to both Rachel and my dad. I'll be living on campus, which I think will be a good balance. I'll have my independence, but I'll also have my support system nearby if I need them. In other news, I recently ran into Sarah at a local coffee shop. It was awkward at first, but we ended up talking for a while. She apologized for everything that happened and explained that she and Mark had separated. She said the whole incident had made her realize how she'd allowed Mark to mistreat me, and she felt terrible about it. While I'm not ready to forgive and forget, it was a conversation that gave me some closure. I haven't heard anything from Mark or Jake, and honestly, I'm okay with that. The counselor has helped me realize that I don't need their approval or forgiveness to move on with my life. I'm focusing on the relationships that are positive and supportive. As I pack up my things to move into my dorm room, I can't help but reflect on how much has changed in a year. Last summer, I felt lost and alone, like I didn't belong anywhere. Now, I feel like I have a real support system and a future to look forward to. There are still challenges ahead, of course. Starting college is a big step, and I'm nervous about making new friends and keeping up with the workload. But I'm also excited about the opportunities ahead. I'm looking forward to diving deeper into historical studies, maybe even joining the university's history club or student newspaper. My relationship with Rachel has grown stronger over the past year. She's been more than just a place to stay, she's become a true mentor and friend. We've talked about her staying involved in my life even with my dad moving closer, and I'm grateful for that. She's helped me connect with my mom's memory in ways I never expected. As for my dad, we're still working on our relationship. It's not perfect, but it's better than it's been in years. We're planning to have weekly dinners once he's settled in his new place, and he's even talking about taking a history class at the local community college so we can have more to talk about. To everyone who's followed my story and offered support along the way, thank you. Your kind words and advice have meant more than you know. As I start this new chapter of my life, I feel cautiously optimistic. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I also know that I'm stronger than I was a year ago. I've learned the importance of standing up for myself and surrounding myself with people who truly care about me.